Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Ringside Report MMA. Tonight on the show, Team Dave and Team Fred parlays cashing in at UFC Vegas 66. Paulo Costa not fighting Robert Whittaker at UFC 284. And Zion Clark making MMA history.
Let's go!
Let's go indeed. Let's get AJ in here. Uh-oh. AJ D'Alessio, the only guy who didn't have a winning parlay last weekend.
But I did win with Don't Cry For Me, Argentina.
Oh. Don't remind me. Don't remind me.
Man, what a crazy game, dude.
Tremendous.
It was crazy. I'm like, I'm not going to bother Dave because I know right now he's like, his blood pressure levels are hitting the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, it was insane, dude. It was one of the craziest games I've ever seen in my life. It was like back-to-back crazy action. Honestly speaking, man, like if it didn't go into the overtime, you know, there's no way that Argentina didn't deserve the win. The first two halves, it was Argentina's game. France woke up, man, and came in, put in a couple of beauties to put it into overtime. And then in overtime, Messi, man, you can't get a better storybook than this guy, man. This guy, man, you know, I'm always saying Ronaldo, the best player in the world. You bet, Antoinette. I always said Ronaldo, the best player that ever played the game. But now, dude, I must have to admit that Messi has actually stepped over Ronaldo, man. Messi has won a World Cup. Messi scored a goal that if they didn't get that penalty shot, France, it was all over. Messi is the greatest player that played the game, or like still playing the game, but his career is coming to an end. Let me tell you, man, what a phenomenal player.
Mbappe is the future, and I think Mbappe, in a few years, you're going to say he's the greatest player of all time. This guy won a World Cup when he was 19 years old. He's already won a World Cup. He almost won another one. If not for the penalty kicks, they would have, you know, if penalty kicks, Argentina wins on penalties. It was what it was. But Mbappe coming in, scoring 3 goals.
Yeah, two from penalties.
Two from penalties, but one was not a penalty, and it was incredible.
No,
and
listen,
Mbappe, the whole
tournament
has been incredible. An amazing performance from Kylian Mbappe. The guy is amazing to watch.
No, there's no doubt about it, dude. I'm gonna agree with you on that. Listen,
I got to defend my guys here, okay? I got to defend Les Bleus.
You're right. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Even though France lost the game, you know, when it comes to the penalty shots, there's always going to be a hero and a loser, right? A loser that's going to always be known for missing that shot. You know, Baggio, you know, we saw that happening. We saw that with many, many players, man, that have lost it. But let me tell you, going into the penalty shots, because Argentina really deserved the win, we'll have to be honest. Mbappe played an amazing game.
I don't like this deserve. You don't deserve anything. You got to score the goals to win. You got to perform to win. You don't deserve anything. Just because, AJ, just because you have control for most of a fight doesn't mean you can't get knocked out in the 5th round. Just ask Kamaru Usman.
We saw that
just
with
ask
a lot
Israel
of
Adesanya.
We saw a lot of shit happen in where guys are winning the fight and then they lose it. But
and that's what was happening in the France-Argentina game. Argentina had control for most of the fight, And then at the end, boom, boom, France starts putting it on and putting Argentina into some trouble. And then at the end, it kind of went to a judge's decision with the penalties.
But where I'm trying to get at is that usually when guys go up to shoot the ball and they miss, they're hated. But just the fact
guys
that it
go
was
up to
such an
shoot the ball or shoot the box? What did you say? Shoot the box?
Shoot the ball, man. Shoot the ball,
Shoot the ball.
Shoot the box. Shoot the ball. Like they say in Brazil, shoot the ball.
Shoot
but
the
I'm
box.
going to tell you something. Shoot the ball, you motherfucker. Shoot the ball. Shoot the ball. But I'm going to say this. Even though the guys from France missed, it wasn't as heart-wrenching because I said, you know what? Argentina is destined to win. They need to win. Messi needs to win. Messi wins this, and he's going to be a saint.
Let me tell you about heart-wrenching. You are right.
Wait, hold on.
You're right.
What's heart-wrenching is Maradona wasn't there to see finally Argentina win. That's what kills me. My dad got a chance to see Maradona. He spoke to Maradona a long time ago, and I'm going to tell you something. Man, I'm happy for Argentina. They wanted not to take it away from France, Dave, because France will come back and win a World Cup before Mbappe, retires. Mbappe
will win another one, a second for Mbappe.
Yeah, he's going to win another World Cup. You could see that. The team is strong. The team is there. But just to have Messi depart the World Cup, because we'll never see Messi play again. We'll probably never see Ronaldo play again, and I love Ronaldo. But Messi has taken a step above Ronaldo with the World Cup win, the World Cup goals, and to keep him in the game, man, the way he did. Man, what a great player, man. I got to tip my hat to Argentina. I'm just so, saddened that Maradona wasn't there to see this win. But, man, let me tell you, in spirit, that guy was on the field because nobody would have partied harder than Maradona in that, 90,000 stadium or whatever it was. It was crazy. And just to see the excitement in Argentina with the fans. You know what impressed me the most, Dave? I'm going to tell you what impressed me the most. Was the fans, the millions of fans that came out. Young, old, dogs, cats, rats, you name it. All kinds of fans coming out of the woodwork. And what was crazy, can you hear me, dude?
Yeah.
What was crazy was this, was that out of all those millions and seas of fans of Argentina, everybody came to celebrate, man. Everybody came out, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you something. There was not one riot, man. There was no destruction. Everybody was having a good time. And that's the beautiful thing about Argentina.
There were some riots in France. There were some riots in France.
Well, that's the problem. France is going to have a riot. We know that. Montreal Canadiens win. There's going to be a stupid riot. But the fans in Argentina, man, holy smokes, man.
Yeah, sure. Good for them. I was rooting for France. I'm a big France fan, and I have been for a very long time. And, it sucks. It sucks that they lost because they were so close to coming back and winning. And they were getting dominated for most of that game. They had nothing. They had no shots. They had no possession. And then all of a sudden in the 80th minute, they come alive. They get that penalty. They score a goal. And then Mbappe scores another one the next minute, immediately after. All of a sudden it's 2-2. We're going into extra time. And then in the extra time, Messi scores, and I'm like, oh, no, it's over. And then, penalty again. And here comes Mbappe, and he scores again, and he pushes it into the penalty kicks, and then they just lose in penalties, which was disappointing. But I will say that it would have been more disappointing had we not seen all that exciting soccer and all that exciting action. It was crazy. It was emotional. I felt it big time watching the game. And
the yard was full, man.
And it was fun, at least, that we got this crazy game and that France did come back. I was happy that they didn't just lose 2-0. They could have done another 10 minutes of that game the way they had played 80 minutes of that game, and it would have been a pretty disappointing result, I think, for everybody. Argentina, I think they would have been happy with it, whatever. But I think a lot of people watching would have been like, yeah, that game kind of sucked, right? But the fact that France came back and had a good showing and put a good effort in, and they almost won, and they took it all the way to penalty kicks, that to me is kind of like a victory for France. They didn't win the World Cup, but, man, they were looking pretty bad in that game, and all of a sudden they pulled it together and nearly won the World Cup. So it was a lot of fun to watch the France ride the whole way through, and then to see them all make it to the finals again. It was disappointing. Maybe not as disappointing as it was in 2006 when they lost in the finals. That was more disappointing, I think. That's the last time France went to the World Cup finals and lost, and it sucked back then when Zidane headbutted that jerk.
Hey, don't mess with the Materazzi, man.
That was more disappointing because you know what? I wasn't happy for any of those Italian players, and at least Messi, you got to respect Messi. He's a filthy, messy man.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Where I was surprised with France is that when they pulled out Giroud and then they pulled out Griezmann, going into penalty shots without having those two guys, I'm like, they're cooked. France is cooked because those are the key guys that you need. You needed them. I just thought they took out Giroud a little bit too early, who really played well in the World Cup. I just thought it was
the game turned around after those substitutions, you know?
Yeah, it did. Look, but you know what?
I have learned one thing from following this team for a long time here, and that is this coach that took over, I think, in 2012, Didier Deschamps. You don't doubt this guy. This guy knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah, he's probably the best
coach. He's very good.
He's probably the best coach in the game. Now,
I never doubt anything he does because what the hell do I know? And this guy, he's a soccer master. This guy's good. We're here to talk MMA. We're not here to talk soccer because I don't know shit about soccer. I like soccer, but I basically watch it every 2 years. I watch the Euro and I watch the World Cup.
Italy.
You know?
It's okay, dude. And you know what? It's exciting. And you know what?
Italy won the last Euro, right?
Yeah, we won the Euro, Dave. It wasn't that long ago, Dave.
It was 2 years ago.
But I'm going to tell you something. It wasn't that long ago. Italy won the Euro. You know, Argentina's won the World Cup.
And didn't make the World Cup somehow.
Did it, and somehow
that to me makes no sense.
But you know, they broke a record of like the most consecutive, wins on an international level at 30. They were breaking all kinds of records, this and that, but they still couldn't make the World Cup. That's the crazy part. I mean, France had it happen to them it was way back, but it's happened to France, it's happened to Spain, it's happened to some of the big teams. But I hope Italy doesn't pull another a trifecta and not be in the World Cup for 12 years. They better be in there in the next one, man. I swear I'm going to go local. But the thing is that – but right now, man, I got to give it to Messi. Messi, maybe not, man. It's going to be bad in Italy.
I don't know.
They're going to have to change, national sports, man.
They're going to have to figure out how to beat Japan, the powerhouse of soccer now, Japan.
Man. Listen, somehow. Morocco, you got to tip your hat off to Morocco, man. Croatia. Croatia's always there in the finals. They're always the bridesmaid, but never the bride. You know, they're always there. And you know what? Croatia is a team that I can see winning at one point. You know, they have everything it takes to win the World Cup, but they just don't get the luck sometimes. You know, but Morocco, man, thumbs up to Morocco. Played a fantastic series, beat some big teams. And
we're giving thumbs up to too many soccer teams now. I want to talk about MMA, AJ. I'm getting tired of this soccer talk. I'm done. It's over. We'll talk soccer in 2 years. 2 more years, and we can talk soccer. That's it. It's over.
Last thing. There was MMA at the last game. You had Khabib that was in the stands watching the game, man.
That's a stretch.
Don't forget that.
Okay. So
Khabib was there.
So we had the last UFC event of 2022 this past Saturday night. We had the main event of Jared Cannonier beating Sean Strickland, gets a split decision win, 49-46, 49-46, 46-49. I actually had it 48-47 Cannonier. I thought he won the first, second, and fifth rounds. I don't know how you scored that fight, AJ. It was a close fight to call.
Yeah.
But it does seem odd that 3 people that are supposed to be judging a fight have it so far apart, right? Like the 3 judges that scored this fight, 2 of them had it 4-1 for one guy, Cannonier, who won, 4 rounds to 1. And Strickland, the other judge, had it 4 rounds to 1 for him. You know what I mean? Like, that seems like a pretty wide margin. Like, it's like they're watching 2 different fights. So,
man, that's been the case for a while now, you know?
I mean, when it's 48-47, when it's 1 round, you could call either way, okay, but I don't know. 49-46 for Strickland seemed a little odd to me, but the rounds were close, I guess. but I thought Cannonier won the fight. He wins it by split decision, a solid win for Cannonier. Yeah, I don't know.
Look, Cannonier needed to come out and start like firing rockets. And in the end, he threw 310 significant strikes and landed 141. That's what made him win. He knew going into the corner, including the commentary team that was talking, Cannonier needs to open up, which he did, because Strickland is no joke, man. Strickland is a beast. He kind of reminds me of the Diaz brothers. He's a rockhead, man. You got to kill him to keep him down.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about Strickland. He's always there. But he needed to do exactly what Cannonier did. He needed to open up even more and just throw in an arsenal of punches. That's why Cannonier won. 310 significant strikes, 141 that landed. And that was enough to sway the judges. And let me tell you, man, right now Cannonier is ranked number 3. He's there for a reason.
Well,
He's
enough
a beast.
to sway 2 judges.
Well,
the other
2
judge
judges.
was like, nah.
Yeah, but that's the thing with the judging, man. Lately, like the last couple of cards, in fact, you even have Crosby that put out a comment. He has to justify his judging capabilities and how he goes about judging, because judging has sucked to the point now where it's become a point where betting companies and lottery associations and that kind of stuff are looking into the UFC saying, listen, man, something doesn't make sense here. So it's not only about the fighters. Now they're going to start looking at the judges. I mean, something doesn't make sense.
Well, the UFC has no control over the judges. That's not the UFC's.
No, it's not.
thing.
But, Dave, it doesn't look that good, right? If a fight looks like it's like being swayed one way, or you have 2 judges going completely left and one going completely right, are they at the same fight?
It is
it not the same
difficult
fight?
when it seems like everybody that is watching the fight feels it's going one way. And then when you get to the scorecards, even though everybody kind of feels it's one way, or the majority of people feel it's one way, when you get to the end of the fight and it's going to the scorecards, you know that it's a roll of the dice. You never know what's going to come out of these judges, and that's difficult. That's difficult to deal with, you know? I just wish we could get the judges out of the equation, you know? Like, a lot of people are like, you got to fix judging, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like kind of old school, you know, just fight until it's over. You know?
Like
Let
the
them
old
go.
ways
No
of the
time
UFC,
limit.
man.
I don't know. Yeah, sure. What the hell? Well, no, I think, honestly, if you changed up the rounds, like more Pride style, the fights would end easier. And if you judge the fight not on rounds, but on the fight in its entirety. I like the Pride system where it was a 10-minute round and then a 5-minute round if you needed it. One 10-minute block of fighting can achieve far more than a 5-minute, 3 5-minute blocks. You know what I mean? Because in 10 minutes, you could work, you could get to an advantageous position, and then once you get there, you have time to work. Like if you get a takedown and it takes you 3 minutes to get a takedown, right? In a fight. You start your MMA fight, 3 minutes to get a takedown in a 5-minute round. You then have 2 minutes to work on top. If you get a takedown in Pride back then, you get a takedown 3 minutes in, you have 7 minutes on top to work. You can finish a fight in 7 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And that takes it out of the judge's hands. More finishes. And isn't that what we all want? Right? More finishes. So a lot of people talking about judging and all of this. I just think that we had it right at a certain point. We figured it out. And then we changed it because we didn't like it, because we needed it to be uniform for whatever reason, to be more like boxing or whatever. But this isn't boxing. It's mixed martial arts. And you got to get yourself set. I mean, you see it so much in fights, right? When fighters start fighting, they're kind of feeling each other out, and you know, and then you have that minute break, and a guy could be beating up a guy, and then you have that minute break, and then the other guy kind of resets and kind of gets his composure back, and he comes in and he comes back, and you know, it's a break in fighting that makes it less realistic of a fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think we want to know.
I see where you're getting at.
You know what I'm saying? Like, in a real fight, if you're really fighting somebody to the death and it's just hand-to-hand combat, right? After 5 minutes, nobody's going to say, okay, timeout, go sit there for a minute. Get some water. Okay, now come back. Like, why are we doing this? 10 minutes, figure it out, and in championship fights, you can do, 15 minutes straight. And if you don't have a winner after 15 minutes of straight fighting, then fine, do another 5 minutes and then another 5 minutes and figure it out. But I'd like to see MMA completely changed, honestly. Less, because now people are gaming the system. They're not trying to fight to finish. They're trying to fight to win rounds, right? They're gaming the system. They're trying to do just enough to win this 5-minute block, and then this 5-minute block, and then this 5-minute block, so you win enough 5-minute blocks and you win the fight. But
listen, man, you know what, Dave? I kind of agree with you, because looking back in the Pride days when you would see guys like Fedor or whatever, or like whoever, man, like especially the heavyweight Grand Prix, and there was a takedown done, man, it was like you need to be in the top condition possible, because the grappling and the rolling and the ground and pound, which usually used to end the fight, was always there. There was no time to take a break. You're basically like staying in on the ropes in a boxing ring, was on the ground, was clinching the guy, holding him, and try to regain your breath. But you can't stay there long, because there's still another 8 minutes to go, and you're in trouble. A different game, and I agree with you. It was so much more exciting. But the difference is that the emphasis here is very different, because they're not putting enough on, the judges are not putting enough on effective grappling. And this is where the problem happens when you go to 3 rounds. And I agree with you. They're playing the rounds and whatnot. Look, I doubt the UFC is going to go back to the Pride type of rules, which made it more exciting. But what they got to do is they got to start making incentives per round. So someone is not only just winning the fight, like winning the round, they need to win the fight. So you got to put incentives. You win that round, man, a percentage of your purse goes up. You win that round, a percentage of your purse goes up. You got to make it exciting so that people are going to come out to finish that fight. So, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's got to be a reasoning, not just a coast. I could come into the 3rd round and coast just to win, because I need to be knocked out for this guy to win. This is where boring fights happen. So there's got to be incentives, or even like a sliding scale.
I don't think people are coasting too much. I really don't, because if you coast in the 3rd round, if you coast in the 3rd round, you might wind up losing the fight, because the judges, you can't trust the judges. This is why I think we need to take them completely out of the equation. Just not completely out, but give them far less power, because I really think when we're doing these 15-minute fights that we do, most UFC fights are 15 minutes. The main events are 25. But for a 15-minute fight and for a 25-minute fight, we just need longer rounds, longer individual rounds where more things can happen. You don't get a break. If you get put in a bad position, you can't get saved by the bell. If you get taken down, you can't just hold somebody in your guard and wait for and look at the ref. I mean, how many fights have we seen that happen? If you get taken down and you have like 7-8 minutes and you're under somebody, you can't just look at the ref and hope for a stand-up. You got to move.
Look, man, that's what I'm saying. There's got to be incentives per round for the full fight.
Per round, I mean, what does that mean? If the judge gives it to you, I don't think you should be giving fighters any kind of bonus based on what the judges are scoring, because we've already established that the judges are kind of iffy at best a lot of the time, right?
Well,
I mean, some of them are good. I'm sure there's good judges in MMA, right? I'm not going to say all judges are bad, but a lot of them are bad.
No, and that's where I'm getting at. Like, there's a lot of things that need to be changed. I think incentives have to be like implemented per round and overall fight, not only for fight of the night, but based on each fight. And then another thing is that we need to like up the judging,
like a finishing bonus. You're talking about, like,
yeah, like just
if
just
you
like the
finish a
overall
fight in the UFC, you get an extra a percentage of your purse. Like you get an extra 20% of whatever you're going to make, 20% of that is a bonus to what you're getting, which is always good to have. I'm sure, 20,
Right,
25%
absolutely.
even.
Man, listen, 25%, it'll up like anybody to
It'd
win
be huge.
that fight.
But
And
a
that
finishing
doesn't mean that you
bonus, I
still
think,
can't use.
is a good incentive because
Absolutely, man.
it'll give fighters the incentive to take more risks in fights, I think.
Sure. And it doesn't matter the manner of like a finish. It could be a KO, it could be a submission, it could be
course.
whatever.
Yeah.
The thing is that has to be put in so that each fight becomes more than just trying to attain just fight of the night. You're getting a bonus on that fight with versus your opponent, and then you have the possibility to either get submission of the night, fight of the night, and all these other bonuses which are the cherry on top. That's the way it should be running. And on top of it, judges need to be better qualified. And I keep saying this all the time. Better qualified judges need to be sitting there. Those 3 judges have to have expertise to know that when someone is grappling and it's effective grappling, there should be points given to that fighter. Not just to look at the stand-up game, the kicking game. Even the kicking game sometimes is disregarded as opposed to when someone's taking like body punches or really head punches, and that's more the effective point system. That's the problem. We need to have MMA judges in place. We need to get rid of the boxing judge or the karate judge, and not to take away from that sport. They're all important, but they have to have a real understanding of MMA. And this is why we're losing fights to judges, which is unfair to fighters. You can say what you want against the Patty fight, but we've seen way before that many other fighters that got robbed.
Of
I
course.
can even tell you Charles Jourdain here from Montreal that got robbed a couple of times in fights where I'm like, come on, this is ridiculous. So what I'm trying to say is that the system for Dana White, if he's listening, needs to up the incentives per fight. 10 fights, 10 bonuses, and then everything else that comes along with it. And then really make some interesting incentives. And then we have to clean up the judging system and figure out the real rules to how a judge is going to look at a fight. From effective grappling to striking to even the clinch game. Even when you're up against the octagon and you're defending a good clinch, that should be rewarded. You know what I'm saying? If you're able to get out of a scramble, and even though you got taken down, but your scrambling defense is so good, that should be rewarded, man. We shouldn't be looking at it as, whatever. That's the problem. The judges are not MMA judges.
The thing is, right now in MMA judging, you're supposed to look at effective striking above all else. So
yeah, boxing.
a lot of times,
that's what we call boxing.
A lot of times we see fights where a guy will land some punches, but then get taken down and seemingly controlled on the ground and put in dangerous positions, dangerous jiu-jitsu positions, right? Like
Sure.
You get their back taken, or you're going for a heel hook and you manage to kind of escape, but then you get put into another submission attempt. If there are guys attempting submissions, it's not always counted for very much, right? If a guy escapes. If somebody is able to defend that submission, then it's kind of like nothing. And if that guy is able to land some punches, it's going to count for way more. So it's just, sometimes it's a weird system that doesn't necessarily reward grappling. And it seems like more and more it's based on, well, can a guy land a few strikes? And if he does, well, the takedown that happens to him later means nothing, right? It's that seems to be going on more. But it's a tricky system, man. That's why I think judging fights is just a bad idea. They shouldn't have judges. They should, well, I mean, if you want to judge, fine, but it should be, like AJ saying, MMA people that have fought before, or have experience in martial arts, and also, I, again, think that you should just be judging the fight as a whole. If you are going to have time limits, which is fine, I don't think that you should judge it round by round. I think you should just judge it as a fight. Who do you think looked better in the fight? Who won? And that's how they did it in Pride. Like, it wasn't a score. It's just like, this is the winner. Based on what, they didn't tell you a score. There was no system. It's just like, yes, this guy won because he just looked better in the fight. Sometimes a guy could be losing at the beginning of the fight, but towards the end, he pulls the momentum and he's controlling, and you think, well, maybe, if the fight would continue, he would finish him, but the time expires, so they give the guy, who was maybe losing in the earlier stages but winning in the later stages, the fight, and that makes sense to me.
Well, listen,
I like the way they
agree
did
with
it
you
in Pride. I really do. I think Pride MMA, like the rules that they had it right.
Well, there wasn't too many disappointments in who won in Pride. That's for sure. You knew right away, yeah, he deserved the win. Like, there was no, like, oh, I think maybe I don't. It didn't happen. It was, I can't even think of a fight in Pride where I'm like, oh, no, I think he should have won.
Like big robberies, yeah.
Yeah, there was no big robberies because it was very, very clear on who won that fight. And
it just
most
seemed
of the
like
time,
common sense.
It was common sense, and even the fighters themselves never walked away with disappointment like I got robbed or whatever. There was some heavy-duty fights like Nogueira's, Fedor.
There were
even
some fixed fights,
man,
however.
I remember.
There were some fixed fights.
Man. Listen, when you're in
that
Japan,
did happen.
man,
That's a fact.
Look, shit happens, but I mean, like,
it was still cool. we liked it. It was
still,
good.
Yeah, it was kind of like a wrestling feel, if you know what I mean. But the thing is that overall, man.
Well, UFC is a wrestling feel too. I mean, don't kid yourself. UFC is the hottest pro wrestling promotion in the world. It's a shoot. It's real.
You're right. You got a point there.
But they have taken a lot of the pro wrestling elements and combined it with real fighting and made it quite a show. Quite a show. The fact that the UFC even exists is fantastic to me. I love it. Because it was a thing that when I was a kid, I always wondered about and I always dreamed about. Like, I wonder, like, what would happen if wrestling was, like, totally real and the guys are going crazy and yelling at each other and then fighting for real? Like, wouldn't that be crazy? And here we got the UFC with all these characters. On a Saturday night, I could watch what does he call himself? Jared Cannonier. He's got, like, a funny nickname, the Killer Gorilla.
Killer Gorilla.
The Killer Gorilla, Jared Cannonier, who's big, jack dude, fight Sean Strickland, who's this wild man, who's swearing and saying all this wild shit all the time. And these guys are in the main event. If that's not a pro wrestling Saturday night's main event, I don't know what is. I mean, it's just classic. You got big old Jared Cannonier with his big arms coming out, the Killer Gorilla against Sean Strickland, who's talking all this trash. And they go out and they beat the hell out of each other. And it was a great show. That's what pro wrestling is supposed to be.
And you know what? You're absolutely
not exactly, because it's not real, but I mean it's real, but not it's a work.
But you're right. This is what it is. This is like pro wrestling brought up to a different level, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely right. And when the UFC first came out in 1992, if I'm not mistaken, 93, when that came out, it was a circus, man. And like, just the amount of eyes around the world, because it was always that mysterious question: what art was the best?
Yeah.
Who was the best? Was it a street fighter? Was it a karate guy, taekwondo guy, wrestling guy? And all of a sudden, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, what is that? Isn't that the dance that they do? It's like, no, that's capoeira. That's how bad it was. Everybody was like,
we don't need to do a jiu-jitsu history lesson, though, AJ.
But Dave, what you're saying is absolutely right, because the first UFC one was already the WWE, like, packaged differently. It was a circus, and the characters that came out and their intros were all based on pro wrestling. Like, you looked at,
they're all characters, man, and you got to be a character. You got to be a character in MMA to make a big name for yourself, and maybe that's where Arman Tsarukyan is falling short, because he beat Damir Ismagulov and really dominated him. It was a very impressive performance in the co-main event. Arman Tsarukyan is an absolute beast. He's 26 years old. He's 19-3. He's crushing the competition. And, he's looking really good. He's looking like a top prospect at 155 pounds. But he said recently that he was kind of unhappy with some of the guys in the division. Like, this is his quote to Hardcore MMA. Tsarukyan says, Michael Chandler needs to retire already. All of them need to retire. Dariush, no, not him. Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. Get rid of them. Eliminate them from the top 15. All they do is fight each other, and that's it. They don't want to fight anyone. Those three guys are my least favorite fighters. So Tsarukyan expressing some frustration with three guys, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Michael Chandler. And he is saying something that I have been saying on the show, and I agreed with him, saying, look, it's really hard to crack the top 5 when they only want to fight each other. It's really hard to get up to that upper echelon when those guys that are kind of hogging that top 5 don't want to fight you. They only want to fight each other, which makes sense for those guys to be fighting, you know, bigger money fights, more well-known guys, and maybe guys that aren't as big of a threat. I think Arman Tsarukyan or a Mateusz Gamrot or a Beneil Dariush is a bigger threat to Dustin Poirier than Michael Chandler was. But they are not as big of a name as Michael Chandler. And if you look at the UFC's 155-pound rankings, you have Islam Makhachev, of course, as the champion up top. Then you have Charles Oliveira, ranked number 1, former champion. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and then you have Beneil Dariush and Michael Chandler. But Dariush did not jump in there by fighting any of those guys. Dariush did that just by beating everybody else. He beat Tony Ferguson. Ferguson was one of those guys willing to fight anybody. And he beat Mateusz Gamrot recently, and he's just been on a tear. And people were calling for him to fight Dustin Poirier, Beneil Dariush and Dustin Poirier. And at one point, Poirier seemed down to fight him, and then Poirier kind of, maybe not. Didn't seem so interested in the fight. And I see where the frustration is with some of these guys, because we have kind of entered this weird zone where it's, you know, Oliveira became champion, and then he defended against... Well, he won it from Chandler in a vacant, right? When Khabib retired. Oliveira won it from Chandler, then he fought Poirier, then he fought Gaethje. Right? And then Gaethje has been fighting kind of these guys too, right? He fought, he lost to Khabib, and then he fought Michael Chandler, and then he fought Oliveira. And Chandler has been fighting these guys too. He just fought Poirier, he fought Gaethje. Like these, and they're all kind of hovering in the top 5 of the division. And these guys like Tsarukyan, and Tsarukyan right now ranked 9th in the world in the UFC's rankings. I could see where he's ranked 9th right now. I could see where he could be frustrated, right? Because he's fighting guys like, see, I can't even remember the dude's name, and he's a killer. Damir Ismagulov, right? Who's a monster. But he doesn't have a big name, and you know I think he'd rather be fighting guys like
he was
Poirier
a big name,
or Gaethje or whatever to kind of get a big name. And he just came off the fight with Mateusz Gamrot. He lost the fight with Gamrot, but man, it was a close fight. And Gamrot's another one of these guys. Like,
well, he's ranked 7th with Gamrot, right?
Well, that's it. He's ranked 7th. But there is a crop now, and I've been talking about it for a while, of these up-and-coming lightweights that are going to push these top, these top-ranked lightweights out of the way. And I think that the guys like Oliveira, who's ranked 1st, and Poirier and Gaethje, you have Oliveira ranked 1st, Poirier ranked 2nd, Gaethje ranked 3rd, and then Chandler ranked 5th. I think there are guys that are right on their heels right now, and they've been coming for a while, and now they've arrived. And these fights need to start happening. You got Rafael Fiziev, who's one of these guys who just knocked out Rafael Dos Anjos. He's ranked 6th. You have Mateusz Gamrot, who just who just lost to Beneil Dariush in a close fight. He's ranked 7th. You have Dos Anjos, who's kind of on his way out too. He's ranked 8th. Then you have Tsarukyan. You got Jalen Turner. He's another one. You got Damir Ismagulov. Like, there are some killers at 155 that are ranked lower than guys that I think they can beat. And I'd like to see those fights. I'd like to start seeing those fights. I'd like to start seeing the Dariush versus Poiriers. I'd like to start seeing Fiziev versus Gaethje. I'd like to start seeing Tsarukyan versus Michael Chandler. But, you know, these guys like Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, they're all angling for fights with Conor McGregor. Like, they're in a different league. You know? They're at the top of the 155-pound division technically, and they're good to fight for titles because they're big names, but they're at a different level than these other guys. Like, their pay scale is way different. You know, their bank account is way different, and what they can bring for the UFC is way different. Like Chandler and Poirier and Oliveira and Gaethje, they've got way bigger fan bases than a Tsarukyan or a Jalen Turner or a Mateusz Gamrot, right? But
absolutely,
what are we doing here, right? Is this about your name, about entertainment, or is it about the sport? And I think what we have here is what we call pro wrestling. It's sports entertainment. Because if it was purely about the sport, we wouldn't have an issue. These guys would for sure be fighting, and it would all be, you know, good and done. But that's not what we have here. It's sports entertainment. So do you really want some of your higher profile lightweights to lose to some of these lower profile lightweights? We'll see in 2023. But that's going to be a big question for the UFC's 155-pound division. What happens to all these guys? What's Gaethje's next fight? What's Chandler's next fight? What's Poirier's next fight? What's Oliveira's next fight? Because they're at the top level of that division. We know Islam Makhachev, the champion, he's going to fight the champion of the 145-pound division. Right? He's going to fight Volkanovski, I think, in February.
Yep.
In Australia. Makhachev's not scared of anything. He's like, yeah, I'll fight you in your home. Let's go. Send location. What a beast. What a beast.
But that's
these other guys, you know, like, I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know what's going to... And they're angling for title fights, too, because, like, they're one win away from a title fight, right? Like, Dustin Poirier, has he fought Islam yet? I don't think he has. Like, he could be in line for a title fight. He could be fighting Beneil Dariush, or Poirier can just hang back, right, and fight the winner. Like, if Poirier's thinking, I could fight Beneil Dariush, who's ranked, you know, 4th in the world, whatever, or I could main event a pay-per-view against Islam Makhachev and possibly become UFC champion, right? And if he's thinking, maybe Islam beats Volkanovski, whatever, maybe you wait it out.
Sure.
Right? Like, Poirier's at this level where he's made a lot of money with the Conor fights and everything. He could kind of wait it out. He doesn't have to go right back in there. But meanwhile, there's these other guys trying to climb the ladder. We'll see.
But you're absolutely right, Dave. You're absolutely right. These guys can wait it out. They've earned their stripes. They've made their bones.
Of course.
They can do that. And Dana White is not stupid either, because you need to have these known names. Arman is a beast. Like, you know, I knew coming into this fight it was going to be really hard against Damir. Damir was 24-1 before entering the fight against Arman. Arman is an Armenian animal. But the thing is, he's 26 years old. He has everything in his arsenal, from ground, stand-up, octagon control. The wisdom at 26-year-old to be fighting is his IQ is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The only thing that
and
he
getting
doesn't
better,
have
right?
is
This is the best version. He looks better than ever.
He's won all 3 rounds. And the thing is that he's a smart fighter. He will not commit. He will not do a kamikaze. He's there to win in the smartest way possible. And he wasn't fighting a nobody. Damir, I think, was ranked number 12, but the guy was a 24 wins to 1 loss, and he was an absolutely beast. The only thing that Arman doesn't have is exactly what you were saying. He doesn't have the pizzazz yet for people to know who he is. He's 26 years old. He needs to fight a big name. That's a next step for Arman. If the UFC needs to start marketing this guy, he's going to have to step into the top 3 there that you were talking about. I don't care who he fights, but I think if he fights Chandler, that can be a really interesting fight. And if Arman beats Chandler, that's enough of a name for people to remember Arman. And Arman has to start becoming a little bit more marketable.
He's not going to fight Chandler, though, because Dana is talking publicly about Chandler fighting Conor McGregor. So Michael Chandler is chilling right now, waiting for the call to fight Conor McGregor. Dana has said in a couple interviews recently that the ideal fight for Conor when he comes back would be Michael Chandler. So
then give him. So give Conor Chandler and give I don't know Arman Burns or Poirier. You got to give him a name.
Burns is a 170.
Oh yeah, it's true. He's 170. Forget it. So you got to give somebody like Poirier with a name that he has, so that Arman has to start becoming recognizable.
Poirier's not going to want to fight this guy. That's what I'm saying. Poirier's not going to want to fight him. He's going to wait. He could get a title fight. Why fight Tsarukyan? He's not fighting Dariush. If he's not fighting Dariush, who's got a slightly bigger name, he's not fighting Tsarukyan either. Poirier's not interested in those guys. He's waiting it out. This guy beat Conor McGregor twice. He's going to fight Arman Tsarukyan. Who is that guy, right? Nobody knows who he is. That's the problem for Tsarukyan. If Tsarukyan's real smart, he'd call out Paddy the Baddy. That's what he should do. Because Paddy the Baddy might be dumb enough to fight him. Paddy the Baddy lost his last fight. Paddy the Baddy's a 155er.
Oh, no, he won, but...
Come on. You didn't see the fight. You were driving. Get out of here.
I saw the third round.
Paddy the Baddy lost that fight to Gordon there. Okay? Tsarukyan should fight Paddy the Baddy. He's ranked way lower than Tsarukyan, but it's a big name that he'll just smash. Like, if Tsarukyan smashes Paddy the Baddy, everybody would be like, oh, my God. Have you seen this guy Tsarukyan? Like, they'll be hype. Oh, he could beat Islam Makhachev. Look how good he is. People don't know. People don't know how good some of these guys are at 155. That's why the 155 division is not only the toughest division in all of the UFC, in all of MMA, but it's also the toughest division to crack. It's the toughest division to make a name in. It's hard to climb up the ranks because there's so many big names at 155 these days that it's really hard to get the big fights because there's so many big fighters. The big fighters all want to fight each other. The only way to jump up and join the ranks is by becoming undeniable like Islam Makhachev, but also, you know, Islam not only was undeniable, but he had that Khabib rub. He had the former champion there with him in his corner all the time, which helped.
Yep.
Which helped. You know, Islam is the man. Islam is a beast, but, you know, Khabib being there does not hurt. And
listen, man, you know what
it's part of the UFC game, right? Like, it's not just about winning fights all the time.
I just looked at some of the stats here. I forgot that Arman actually fought Olivier Aubin-Mercier back in 2019. I forgot about that fight. It just goes to show you how much the progression of Olivier, you know, like champion in the PFL, man.
I mean, that's how good Arman is. Arman beat Olivier.
He beat him. And he had
crazy.
2 takedowns, man, on Olivier, man. That's not a joke.
Yeah. Arman's for real. Arman fought Islam Makhachev to a 3-round decision in a really good fight. Like, it was a close fight. They will fight again. Islam and Arman will fight again. I don't think Arman is done with Islam Makhachev. That's going to be a big one. And the Gamrot fight was really good. But, man, Arman is so young, 26 years old. He's going to be a problem one day. I'm telling you.
Listen, even with the Gamrot fight, if you look at the
it was close.
You know, it was close, man. But the strike count went to Arman. He had 95 to 81 on Gamrot. The takedown, that's where Gamrot actually was on top of Arman. He took him down 6 times to Arman taking only Gamrot down once.
Yeah.
But if you look at the strike count, man, Arman was throwing way more than Gamrot in that fight. So you're right, man. If they meet again, it'll be a different story, I think, as well.
So, yeah, I'm a big fan of Arman Tsarukyan. I think he's fantastic. And I think he's going to be doing big things going forward in the UFC. He wasn't part of my parlay. He was part of Fred's parlay. Fred had a 2-fight parlay, Tsarukyan and Cannonier. That cashed in. I had a 2-fight parlay, Nurmagomedov and Cannonier. Of course, that cashed in because you always got to bet on a man named Nurmagomedov. Usually a safe bet. And it was, with a big choke in the second round of Kakramanov. It was a big win for Said Nurmagomedov, and then Jared Cannonier in the main event. So Team Dave cashed in last week. Nice little parlay victory. More than doubled your money over at bet99.com. And Team Fred as well cashing in. So nice parlay victories for Dave and Fred on the last UFC show of the year. And AJ once again coming up quite short on his
Listen,
mega
man,
parlay.
my payout was the beautiful one, but it didn't come out. It was a long shot. But you know what? You know,
That
as
means
soon
you
as that
lose all
first
your
fight,
money.
you lose all your money. But it just started off bad. As soon as I lost that first fight, it was like, there goes the parlay. But my parlay paid out almost 3,000 something, 3,005 off a $20 bet. I mean, the long shot was there.
But it lost.
It
my
didn't come through.
my parlay paid out, I think it was maybe 50 or 75 bucks. One was 75 and one was 50. I don't know which one, Fred's or mine.
It was a good payout on $20, man.
Yeah, it was a pretty
there,
good
75.
payout on $20. And guess what? It actually paid out. So you would bet the money and you would win. Unlike with AJ, where the payout was good, but you wouldn't actually cash in because the fights are losers. So it doesn't work, AJ. You could brag about your big possible payout, but it's all hypothetical. My parlay actually won. Like, the payout wasn't $3,000. It was, maybe $50, $75. But, you still won money.
Listen, my three-legged horse didn't come out,
Yeah, because you did like a 5-fight parlay. You did a 5-fight parlay, and I did a 2-fight parlay on some minor favorites or slight underdogs, and they both won. Winning fights is the key. Winning money is the key.
AJ.
Paulo Costa not fighting Robert Whittaker at UFC 284. UFC announced that one, and then apparently they hadn't signed the deal. Paulo Costa talking to MMA Fighting, saying that he was unhappy with his contract. They were offering him $70,000 to show and $70,000 to win. Costa wanted more. The UFC then offered him a new deal worth $500,000 over 6 fights, which Costa declined because 6 fights was way too much for that number. Especially if he would have beat Robert Whittaker, right? I mean, 6 fights, that's $83,000 a fight. I mean, Paulo Costa fought for a world championship. He's a pretty big name. They want him to fight Robert Whittaker, who's a former champion, who's a beast at middleweight.
I mean,
I think Paulo Costa's got a point.
Man.
I think Paulo Costa's got a point. I mean, that is some lowball bullshit. $80,000 a fight for 6 fights for Paulo Costa? He's worth more than that. He's got to be worth more than that. The guy is a star in MMA. He's well known. If Paulo Costa's fighting, most MMA fans are going to watch. He has become a star. He has become a name. He should be paid as such. I am shocked that the UFC is offering him such shitty deals. $500,000 over 6 high-level fights. You would have to, he should get at least $500,000 just to fight Robert Whittaker. Right?
Absolutely.
And Whittaker should be paid more because Whittaker is the former champion. He's higher level, I think.
You know what?
But even $500,000 to fight Whittaker seems low, honestly. I mean, it's a tough fight. It's a high-level fight. If you're fighting in the top 5 or the top 10 even at middleweight in the UFC, I think you should get $1 million a fight. At least. Minimum. You're a big deal. You're a major sports star. 70,000. I mean, that's insulting. That's a shock. 70,000 to show and 70,000 to win. That's the offer to fight Robert Whittaker, and that's not. He's not going to get that second 70,000. He's going to get that first 70,000 to show. He ain't winning that shit. Robert Whittaker's beating that ass. I mean, come on. Even Paulo Costa knows that. Let's be real. Robert Whittaker does not lose. But, damn. You know what I'm saying? If I'm Costa, I'd be like, how about you just give me the full 140 You know, just give me the 140 up front. I'll fight him for 140. I don't want that to show to win shit. Just give me the 140. I'll fight him up front. That seems more fair. At least do that for him. Try to, sweeten the pot and make it more interesting.
Because I'm going to tell you something, Dave. Considering that the pay-per-view prices are going up, I mean, they're hitting $79.99. Let's just put it this way. It's $80 a pop for 2023. Your pay-per-view sales are like way up there, man. You're putting up the price. The fans are going to have to dish out more. You know what? You want to keep like the fans happy? Try to keep your fighters happy. And you're right, man. You got to start paying more, man. Like Paulo Costa, I want to see him fight. I want to see him fight in the UFC. I don't want to see him go fight in the PFL. I don't want to go see him fight in Bellator and all that kind of stuff down the road. I want to see him fight now. But at $80 a pop now for a pay-per-view, man, it's getting steep, dude, So you better dish out quality, man.
Everything is inflating, and the UFC, I think, is just a product of this capitalistic society that we're living in.
It's money grab.
Well, it's just the way big business works. Dana White comes out after every pay-per-view press conference and tells and brags about how much the UFC made and how it's record-breaking money for the UFC and how business is so good for the UFC. And then at the same time, he'll say, yeah, these fighters complaining about pay. They're all getting paid real fine. They shouldn't be complaining. And then you hear Paulo Costa asking for, getting $70,000 to fight Robert Whittaker on pay-per-view. Like, what? That doesn't seem, it just doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. But that's just how every company is. They want to boast about their profits while, if their workers ask for a wage increase, they laugh in their face and deny them completely. And that's just how business operates, right? It's not just the UFC.
Yes and
that
no.
seems
yes
to be
no,
the nature of these corporate entities.
But I agree with you. Yes and no. But the thing is that by not giving the fighters some good money, you're kind of cheapening your product. Because the bottom line is that you want to encourage growth in your sport, especially for up-and-comers coming from all over the world. At 13, 14, well, they're like, you know what, I can make a career out of like fighting in the UFC, and I'm going to be paid like this amount of money. It's worth it. So if you want to encourage the growth of your sport, you got to start dishing out money on those fighters. Okay, forget about the Conor. He's a billionaire now. You know what I'm saying? It's a different story. The UFC helped him grow to where he is. But you know what? Not everybody's going to be a Conor. Not everybody's going to be a George. Not everybody's going to be a John Jones. For sure, they got to get paid the money because they're the visibility at a level that most fighters are not. But if you want to get guys to come in, guys that are starting into the UFC should be getting paid $73,000, $80,000, $100,000. That's what they should be getting.
It's the major leagues of MMA. It's the major leagues.
Paulo Costa shouldn't be like fighting for anything less than $250 per fight. These are he's already made his name. He's already made his visibility. The guy has, like in Brazil, he has hundreds of millions of people that come out to watch this guy fight. It doesn't
makes
make
the
sense.
UFC look bad. It makes the UFC look bad when you have high-level fighters like Paulo Costa saying he was offered $70,000 to show and $70,000 to win to fight Robert fucking Whittaker. It just makes the UFC look cheap. And it makes them look bad. And when they say, oh, believe me, the fighters are paid well, Paulo Costa isn't, and Paulo Costa's a star for your company. They may not like Paulo Costa, but he has fans. He may not be the world champion, but he's one of the top middleweights in the company. If you didn't think he was one of the top middleweights in the company, you wouldn't book him to fight Robert Whittaker. It's just, come on, man. You can't have it both ways. Man. You can't say you're good enough to fight Robert Whittaker, but you're not good enough to make more money. It doesn't make sense,
agree.
Right?
Yeah,
you can't
I agree
do
with
that.
You, Dave.
You can't do
Listen,
that.
we're talking about it. We're talking about it. Many other podcasts and sports shows are talking about the same thing, probably. And the fighters, obviously, their agents have to be more visible and say, like, this is like a bloody shame. We need to start, like, negotiating better monies for fighters who have already made their name. It's embarrassing. I'm telling you. I start hearing that and That's why when people go and they see boxing fights, and they're like, how does a boxer walk away with $100 million? It's a different way of promotion and all that kind of stuff. We know that. It's a different system. But yet, you know, it doesn't make the UFC look great when you're offering Costa $70,000, and if he goes and fight a boxing match, maybe he'll make, like, who knows, maybe $200,000. It's,
well, that's it.
You know, with all the endorsements and everything else that you're getting,
right? As a professional fighter, you shouldn't be able to make more money boxing Jake Paul than fighting Robert Whittaker in the UFC.
I agree. Jake Paul makes more money than all of them.
It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. It's not right.
No, and that's it. You figure now with Jake Paul actually showing it and throwing it in your face to Dana White and company, throwing it in their face, and
he
very
care.
visible.
He's ignoring it.
I know, but Jake,
completely.
Of course he's ignoring it, but you can ignore it for so long, because in the end, I keep saying it, if you want to encourage growth in your sport, you have to capture a future market of young fighters that are willing to come to the UFC to say, you know what, it's worth it for me to train this much because I'm willing to possibly earn that amount. But if it's going to cost me more to fight because I got to pay my camps and my doctors and my nutritionists and I still got to work at another job to make ends meet, like, it doesn't make sense. When you're playing professional hockey, like back in the 60s and 70s, the Montreal Canadian players used to play hockey, and in the summer they used to go work at Molson's and, like, deliver, like, beer crates and that kind of stuff.
Well,
but nowadays is a different story. You're a 16, 17-year-old player coming into the NHL or the NBA or whatever. You're being paid to play, and that's it. You're not even thinking about going and work at fucking Walmart or something like that. It doesn't make sense.
No.
But why are UFC fighters who have made their names being thrown dollars that cost them, like, so much more just to have a training camp? It's not free, a training camp, man.
Yeah,
there's so much money involved.
Of course,
it doesn't make sense.
And
they
if
don't
you
get
really
the
want to
sponsors
be
like they used to in the past, right?
If you want to be a professional fighter, right, you have to train all the time. Like, you can't really have a job if you want to be really. If you want to be really good at fighting, you can't have a full-time job, you know? So you are depending on those UFC paydays, and that's not always enough. And then when those fights fall through, then you're really in trouble. And, I mean, forget about the UFC paydays. I mean, just making your way up before you even get a UFC contract. It's difficult, you know? And that's why sponsors are so important. And that's why when the UFC cut out the ability for the fighters to have their own sponsors, it really hurt, because those sponsors were able to be with them and get that visibility through the UFC, and then the fighters were able to charge more and make more money that could then fuel their training camps, so they wouldn't have to worry about bills and whatever while they're training and preparing for that next fight and that next payday. And it makes them better fighters if they can be completely focused on fighting. And they're supposed to be professional athletes at the highest level of pro fighting. And, you know, you can make it like Conor McGregor. You know, you can do it. It's possible, but not everybody is going to be able to do it. And, you know, Conor had something special. You know, winning fights, but also the talking and the whole personality.
He marketed
and
himself
a
so
lot
well.
of fighters are chasing that dream. You know, Paddy Pimblett is chasing that dream right now. He sees it. He knows that it's in his grasp. It's close. But is he going to be able to fully cash in and do it? You know, is he going to be able to win those fights that are necessary to get to that next level? Conor, you know, he was a real special case of talking a lot of trash, really good trash, that personality that everybody liked. And he was knocking people out cold. You know, that really helps. It really helps when you knock people unconscious. People like that. If you can knock people unconscious and talk trash and never lose, yeah, you're going to do really good in fighting. But that's hard to do. It's hard
you have to
do,
back it
right?
up, man.
Especially as the competition gets tougher and tougher, as more and more people get into the sport. It gets more and more difficult every day. Patrick C. Hamilton dropping a super chat saying, interesting conjecture when all the world is taking the time off. Thanks for sticking with us. Well, thank you, Patrick. It's damn cold outside. Minus 26 with minus 35 wind chill. Oh, my
Holy
God.
smokes.
Very cold out in Regina. My God. It is not that cold over here in Montreal, thankfully, Patrick. So we're sending you some warmer thoughts. I think it's about, 0 right now?
Yeah, but there's a huge storm heading towards Montreal. Like
yes, we're getting a massive storm. Oh, it's minus 4. Apparently, the snow is falling outside. I can't see it, but it's minus 4, and the snow is falling. Not quite as cold as it is for Patrick. My goodness, that's freezing.
Minus 26.
I'd rather this. I'd rather this and a snowstorm than minus 26 and minus 35 with wind chill. That's terrible.
I hope he has a nice
I've been there. I mean, it happens here too, right? It happens here. Minus 35 with wind chill, minus 40 with wind chill sometimes. It's real bad, which sucks. And I'm happy it's not that, because that's my least favorite time. When you go outside and you freeze immediately, that's not fun. You know, no matter how many layers you wear, no matter how, like, you got your whole face covered, everything, and you're just like, I'm frozen. You know, you walk outside, you're like, oh, sucks.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Rule number 1. Don't, walk out with a popsicle on a cold day like my friend Ralph did one year. And unfortunately, he had fish lips for a couple of months. But other than that, I mean, yeah.
Oh,
he decided
Ralph.
He was going to be a hero.
Okay.
Good old Ralph, man. Nothing
A couple other things I wanted to get to before we wrap up here, AJ. The Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship is preparing a big offer for Nate Diaz, according to the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship president. So, Conor and Nate were talking smack to each other, literal smack. They're talking about the slap fighting. Maybe we'll see the trilogy fight in that slap fighting thing, Conor versus Nate. You'd pay to see that.
Look, I'll pay to see Conor in that, but, isn't that, much of a hype? Yeah, I would, man, but still, it's not do you really want to lower yourself to that level, Conor? I don't think so.
I don't think
Even Diaz himself.
Nate
the
Diaz.
Stockton slap, maybe.
How about Nate Diaz in bare knuckle boxing? Do you want to see it?
Look, I can see him doing that. That's almost very natural in a sense for him, to be like a street thug and duke it out. I can see that happening, but I want to see. If I want to see the Diaz brothers, I want to see them in an octagon, or I want to see them in a ring. I want to see them fight. And I think before they go that route, he should start looking at the fight with maybe Jake Paul and really making some good money and really building up a crazy hype on that train.
I agree. I think the Jake Paul fight is the big money fight for Nate Diaz, and I think it'll happen next year sometime, probably in the summertime. Nick Diaz, Nate's brother, told reporters in Las Vegas recently that he wants to return to the UFC and fight Israel Adesanya in 2023. He wants Israel to regain the championship over Pereira, and then he wants to fight Israel for the belt in 2023, which I think is highly unlikely.
Look, how old is he now?
I mean, there's no chance in hell. His last fight was a loss to Robbie Lawler. I mean, what are we talking about here? Even if Adesanya gets knocked out cold by Pereira in his next fight, it still would be unfair for Nick Diaz to fight him. Even if he fought him immediately after Adesanya was unconscious. It would still be unfair for Nick. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't think it happens. I mean, I know it won't happen, and I don't think he fights in 2023. What do you think?
You never
know.
Does
Nick Diaz fight in the UFC in 2023? I'm going to say
look,
no.
I like to see it happen. I don't care who he fights. Maybe not Israel, but just to see Nick fight would be really, really cool. If that happens, it'll be an awesome 2023. And I think 2023 is going to be the year for the UFC to have a lot of craziness. I think 2023 is going to open up a can of worms like we've never seen in the UFC. Everything from John Jones to, maybe Diaz. For sure, we're going to see Conor. We're going to see, Islam. Patty is there. We've got, crazy shit. Who knows, man? All we got to hear next is Brock Lesnar wants to come back.
No.
You never know. You never know, Dave. Listen.
But Conor is going to fight in 2023, I think. John Jones is going to fight in 2023, I hope. I think those guys, I mean, that's big, right? Just to have those guys fighting in the same year is going to be pretty massive. Islam Makhachev will definitely fight, I think, a couple of times in 2023, maybe 3 times. He's going to just smash through the competition. We're going to see Usman versus Edwards in a rematch. Like, there's big fights. We're going to see the rematch between Pereira and Adesanya. There are big fights coming up in 2023. Probably,
I just saw comments.
I think we're going to see Henry Cejudo in 2023 as
Lior.
well. Lior asking a question, longtime member. Thank you, Lior, for supporting the Ringside Report Network. He says, what are your thoughts on Henry Cejudo possibly coming back to fight Aljamain Sterling for the championship? Fair, or should someone else get the title shot? Thanks for the great content, guys. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to you, Lior. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy everything else. You see my Hanukkah sweatshirt that Johnny North got me?
Wow, so nice, man. My Hanukkah is better than yours. I like that, man.
And you know it.
It's better than yours?
That's MJF.
Better than yours?
From AEW. MJF. World champion of AEW.
Listen, MJF, he follows us on Twitter, man.
My
He
man.
puts out a like, man. MJF. Yeah, you
I
didn't
think
know
you're
that?
confused. I don't think it's real MJF.
No, it's MJF. No, it's the real MJF. Remember, it was a long time ago. It's the real MJF, man. He followed us, MJF.
He
Thank you
follows
for
Ringside
supporting
Report
her.
on Twitter?
Yep. Thank you
MJF.
for following Ringside Report, man.
What?
Listen, we get a lot of stars that follow us, dude.
I
mean, it's
didn't
normal
know
at
that.
this
I don't
point.
believe you, but maybe it's true.
Yeah,
It's possible.
No, MJF, yeah.
We
yeah,
do have some
MJF.
famous followers. If MJF
I sent
is
it
a
to you.
follower,
Remember, I said to you, who is this guy?
I think you're mistaken. I think you're thinking of someone else, which is very...
No.
See, because you're often mistaken with names. You're not really good with names. I think you're probably confused. It's possible
No,
that
no.
MJF does follow us. Like, it is possible, but I'm going to say it's... I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. We do have some famous followers, though.
Listen, man, we had
Especially
people
me.
that put out
I've got
great
some
comments
famous pro wrestling people that follow me on Twitter. I'm not going to
from
name
Dave
names,
Slyman,
but
man. Don't
let's
short
just
sell
say
yourself, Dave.
several AEW personalities, for sure.
The majority of them like Dave. There's a couple that probably wanted to, like, it's a different story there.
Yeah,
but,
maybe one guy, but, he's all right.
I'm just saying.
I think it's
generally-
cool now. I think it's cool. I think
Listen,
we've all
man,
forgotten.
AJ's got his celebrities. Johnny's got his celebrities.
Okay, how about this?
Even Freddie. But Freddie usually is the celebrities that want to ban him. That's
People
a
want to
different
ban
story.
Fred. Fred is banned.
Freddie
How about
is the
this?
troublemaker of the show.
Zion Clark. Did you see this?
No.
This guy has no legs. He won a professional MMA fight, his first pro fight. No legs.
Yes, he's not the only guy, man. There's been a few other guys that have done that.
Yeah, but my God, you see how he was like, he's super muscular, and I saw a clip, and he's wrestling, and he's got like a wrestling style, and he's taking a guy down and just kind of mauling him. I can't show it because it's not copyright, But he won. This guy with no legs won an MMA fight. Conor McGregor shouted him out on Twitter. Very impressive
What's the
stuff.
name?
He won
Zion?
by decision. Zion Clark.
Yeah, I've heard of the name actually. Let me
So-
see. Oh yeah. I seen this
Good
guy.
for
He's a
him.
beast, man. He's a beast, eh? Look at his upper body, man. The guy is like. Well, I'm good for him. He won his first MMA fight. Conor shot him out, like you said, but he was born without legs. I see. It wasn't because
Yeah.
of an accident or anything.
I say he's got no legs,
Yeah,
like I said.
but damn, his upper body is like so like.
Yeah, he's
Look
a
at
big
this guy. No, there's better pictures than that. Look at the one at the top there, Dave.
Yeah, look
Look
at
at
him.
this.
Yeah, he's super jacked.
Good-looking guy too, man. Look at this guy.
Yeah, he was a wrestler.
Well, good for him. I hope Zion does well, man.
Yeah,
Look at this guy. Holy smokes!
and it's tough to
You know
fight.
when you say,
It's tough
Listen,
to fight a
you-
guy like that,
"Oh yeah,
because he's strong. He's a good wrestler, and he's the same weight as a guy with the legs. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I weigh, say, 155 pounds, and I'm fighting this guy who weighs 155 pounds, he's only 155 pounds of upper body, so his upper body is, like, way stronger and thicker than mine, It's just he's got no legs. But it's hard to punch a guy, like, down. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I could see how this guy could win some fights. I think he might have trouble with some other fight. And you can't kick him. That's another thing. You can't kick him in the face because he's technically a downed opponent. So you can't kick him or knee him in the face. So it's kind of tricky. There's like certain, I'm not going to say advantages that he has, but it's certain like differences in the way that you would have to fight Zion Clark. So it's interesting, you know? And good
but
for
like
him,
I said,
man.
he's
like, could you imagine, you know, this guy, he's born with no legs and somehow manages to have a good amateur wrestling career, turns it into a pro MMA career, wins a pro MMA fight. Like the drive and the heart and determination of this guy is very impressive.
Listen, man, it's like
an inspiring story, man. Congratulations to this guy. He's very cool.
Absolutely, but he's not the first. Like I said, like if you look at like jiu-jitsu and wrestling as well, you had Kyle Maynard that fought in jiu-jitsu. If you ever seen this guy grapple, man, he's amazing, and he's so fast, man, and he can take your back. The guy is phenomenal. So that's why I say, man, there's no excuse in life, man. These guys are out there training, and not only training, they're competing against people that are very able-bodied at high levels, and they're beating them. So you know what? I tip my hat to, like, you know, Zion and Kyle, man. Kyle's another one that I've known for a long time. In fact, Kyle actually follows our show. He's a follower on Instagram. Yeah, man. Kyle, like, you know, like he's on Instagram and whatnot, and I tip my hat to him as well. Good job, boys.
Very impressive stuff. You know, it's like it's amazing. You know, it's amazing that they're able to go out and do it. Like, you know,
it's crazy,
sometimes it's, you know, you don't find the motivation to do certain things. And then you see these guys super motivated. They're going out there and they're getting things done. Good for them. Good for Zion Clark getting a win in his pro MMA debut. Huh?
24 years old, man. He's super young.
Yeah, that's it. Who knows? He's got a future. Good for him.
Yep.
All right. AJ, Merry Christmas to you. Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, man. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. Happy Festivus for Freddie.
Yes.
You know, happy Kwanzaa for Johnny.
Festivus will be tomorrow night. Johnny and I will be doing a special Festivus show. A special Festivus edition of Wrestling Uncensored.
Wow.
There will be feats of strength. There will be airing of grievances.
Oh, you're letting it out, man. I got to be
I
on
got
the
a
show.
lot
Can
of problems with
it?
you people, and you're going to hear about it.
I'm coming on then for sure, man.
Yeah, you should come on because I've got some grievances with you that I've got to air. So
What? Me?
You should come on so I can air my
man.
grievances.
There is no grievances with me,
I'm
man.
airing all my
Irie,
grievances. And there's going to be a metal pole, no tinsel. I find it distracting.
Is Johnny going to talk about like 90 Day Fiancé and all that kind of stuff as well?
I don't think so.
I've been watching it lately again.
That's good.
It's not as good as the old days, but it's still pretty good.
No. I can't believe Angela's still with Michael. Like, what's that?
Oh, Angela.
Yeah, why is she's still with Michael? You know, Michael.
Poor Michael, man. He gets like whipped like a freaking whip.
Hey, he wouldn't let go of his Instagram, all right? He should have just let go of his Instagram. He wouldn't have had no problems with Angela.
She lost a lot of weight, mind you. I'll tell you that
She's
much.
A little
but she
bananas.
is one fiery.
That is a weird. That is a weird couple.
Listen, Michael, you better learn some jiu-jitsu because I'm telling you, man, she's gonna knock you out. I can see it. It's embarrassing. In his country, man, all his friends are laughing at him. They're like, man, Mako is he's just stupid. You know?
Yeah, 90 Day Fiancé is all right. I've
No
seen
Neck
a bit
Ed,
of it.
man, he's back.
Who?
No Neck.
Yes, he's got a new lady friend, right?
He follows us on Instagram, so like, you know, shout out. You know? To Ed.
Okay. All right. I want to
there was a guy that was on the show. What?
Patrick C. Hamilton, you're the Super Chat leader of the night. Thank you to all the members for supporting the Ringside Report Network. Leor, Patrick in the chat tonight. Thank you, guys. Shout out to everybody tuning in and supporting the Ringside Report Network. I am done. We are done. I'll be back here tomorrow night with Johnny North. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas to all the Ringside Report MMA viewers. To those joining us tomorrow night, we'll have some good times with Wrestling Uncensored on a special Festivus edition. Happy holidays to you all. Thank you for supporting the Ringside Report Network this year. Next week on the show, we'll be doing a 2022 year in review on our final show of the year here for Ringside Report MMA. And, yeah, Fred had the night off, by the way. Okay? We'll see you later.
Please join in and give your support to Ringside Report Network. We've been providing expert coverage and commentary on both pro wrestling and MMA for over 15 years. Go to ringsidereport.net/support to find out more ways to support the channel.